Wow. Somebody's on 10 meters, dude.
Yeah, we kind of delve into
I've got to move the microphone out of the way, though.
radio related here. They've got people of all interests and all levels of experience. So it's a good place to learn. It's a good place to have fun. It's a good place to make friends. So anyway, I kind of told you we're
7:18.
I don't know how long you've been in the Prescott area, but for real old timers, I tell them I'm just up the hill from Angelina's grave, and that tells the real old timers and the geocachers pretty much where I live within about a quarter of a mile. But for folks that haven't been here that long, I'm about 3 miles due east of Trader Joe's. So, as a matter of fact, you can see my house from Trader Joe's if you look at Trade East. And if you squint, then you can see the antennas. So, back over to you, the KG7 SPY from WA08.
Well, I cannot hear that guy. These guys are apparently local. Boy, I cannot. His audio is terrible. He sounds like he's on a brand new Yaesu radio that he has not adjusted. Of course, I don't have any signal on him at all.
And then my mentor moved out of town, and about a week later I got a pink slip from the FCC saying, you're about half a bubble off frequency, stop it, fix it. And I didn't know how, and so I just kind of let it lapse until 2015. I had a cousin who was in it, and he got me interested again. So 2015 I actually got my technician. So that's part of my story. So anyway,
it'd be pretty hard to have a conversation for a long time with somebody that's this muffled.
Oh, hey, that transmission made the light come on, Steve. Yeah, you're my buddy. I once you said you remembered me coming out to your house and helping you with FT8. Well, then the light came on. Now I knew which Steve I was talking to. So, hey, it's great to hear you here on 10 meters. And, man, for where you're at, you're putting a heck of a signal in, and that's with your ICOM 7300, if I remember correctly. Back over to you. Yeah, this is just my ICOM 7300. Anyway, so...
it's the first bad one I've heard, actually.
So I got hooked up with my technician. I was down in Yuma at the time. And...
he's not wiggling the needle, but...
And the next year I got my general.
He should still sound a lot better than that on a 7300.
I studied up and took the amateur electrical course to see if I could do it. And I did classes, but I'm not any smarter than I was. But anyway, so this is still a learning experience for me, Anyway, back to you, Stevie, with the KG7 SPY. There, here's somebody out there way down in the mud. I don't know if it's a DX station or if it's, somebody...
Have you ever noticed that most of these guys talk like they're on CB radio?
It might be Steve, KD7OG, but I can't hear him.
So when I first got licensed, if I would have said something like, you're in the mud, they'd been like, go back to 11 meters with that lingo. They really would. And they hear all these old guys, you're in the weeds, you're in the mud. You know, I'm surprised people don't actually give him a hard time about it. I put my tuner in bypass.
Jim, glad to have you back. And yeah, you have a really strong signal now. And so I'm picking you up as soon as things go there. I come in really strong signals now. So this gives you 702.
See, I can't even hear him. We're at 7 on the DNR.
W808 KG7SDY. That was Jim.
God, that has got to be the worst sounding 7300 I've ever heard.
And he came in just as strong as you are. However, he says he can't hear you. So anyway, he's backed out. So I'll turn it back to you. This is KG7SDY. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, Jim and I, if you know where Stone Ridge is, and I'm sure you do, Steve, there's that big high ridge, and it is absolutely in the way for Jim and I to communicate. So I can hear him when he uses one antenna, and absolutely could not make anything out while he was using that other, the vertical that you were talking about. Now, I may have to turn my beam or something a little bit, but I just don't think it's going to work between he and I with that antenna. So that's a funny situation where you know, he can communicate with me on one antenna, and he can communicate with you on a different antenna, but not both of us with either antenna. So that's pretty funny. Yeah. So thanks for sharing your ham radio background, and mine's you know, not really a parallel. I got into ham radio back when I was a teenager in the early to mid 70s, and I was actually active on CB radio in the 60s.
I'm going to tell you.
When my dad got a CB, and then again in the 70s when the CB craze hit, and figured out pretty quickly that CB radio was not where I wanted to spend my time, because I just couldn't do everything that I wanted to do with CB radio. So I happened to be real lucky and had an uncle who was a ham who lived out in the Dayton, Ohio area, and he, you know, long distance, was able to kind of give me some ideas on how I could get into ham radio, and I got involved with the Exarban Amateur Radio Club. I lived in Omaha at the time, and got very active very quick, and really never looked back. I haven't always been active, you know, work and family and schooling and those kinds of things. You know, they were more, you know, center of mind while I was working and raising a family, and so I got down here and
Probably could hear him better on that radio.
Because I had a tower and all that back in Omaha, but I finally decided to put a tower back up and get back into the hobby in a bigger way. So anyway, a lot of you know, operating over the years, and you know, it's been right around 50 years for me, and learned a lot along the way, had a lot of fun, and I'm still learning a lot and still having a lot of fun. So back over to you, Steve. KG7SDY from WA08. This is KG7SDY. Yeah, I remember
Let me get the microphone out of the way. Still can't really see him on the waterfall.
The technician had 10 meter signatures. So what radios can they actually use? Do they have to have an HF rig, I presume, or is there another way around that? So, this is KG7SDY.
Noise blanker wants to work.
Well, that's a great question, and you know, the probably the easiest, most typical way around it is just to buy an old, and I would say solid state rig. I don't recommend anybody mess around with tube rigs anymore. The tubes have gotten so doggone expensive; it's just not worth it. At least from my standpoint. So, yeah, you pick up an old ICOM. What were they? 730s. I've got an old ICOM 745 that I bought in the 80s, brand new. But you know, it's a fine rig, and it's of course got 10 meters along with all the other HF bands. And you know, that's probably the typical way a technician would get on. But you know, there also are 10 meter specific radios. And I bought a couple of them at Hamfest. I've got a realistic.
I don't know what the difference between the blue
10 meter
and the green.
Radio. It looks an awful lot like a CB radio, but it's 100 watts. I'm sorry, it's 10 watts. The one that I've got is an HTX 100, and that works real well. I've run the net using that radio several times when I'm having trouble with the bigger radios. And then President also made one. That was the brand name. It's a pretty close copy of the HTX 100, but it's an HR 2510. So, you know, if a fellow wants to use a smaller, lower power radio, like I said, there's 10 or 20 watts, maybe it's 20 watts on these. There's the realistic HTX 100 and the President HR 2510. And then Radio Shack made another 10-meter radio, very similar to the HTX 100. But I don't recall off the top of my head what the specs are on that radio. And then there are folks that are coming out with 10-meter radios that are, you know, again, like a CB radio form factor. Let's see, I think Radio Oddity has one. Yeah, I don't recall exactly who's making them. Some of them are more geared towards single sideband, and some of them are geared more towards FM.
Anyway.
There's one that just came out that is a Redevance radio for 10 meters. I think I'm getting that right. Anyway, it's more geared as an FM radio for further up in the band. But there you go. There's a few that are alternatives. But I think pretty typical is an older HF radio. And that way, once the technician gets a taste of HF.
Oh my god. This philosophy is extremely outdated. And you're basically telling somebody to buy an inferior radio. And I'm not trying to be a snob, but these are CB radios. They're meant to be unlocked and used on 11 meters. They're not really intended to ever be used on ham radio. And they basically don't meet the criteria. I've got newer radios like that, and they're not good enough. They have issues. I would never recommend some new person to use a radio that a bunch of old farts are going to give them a hard time about.
anybody else, please call WA08 now. All right, well, looks like it's the three of us. Like I said, thanks for joining us, Arizona. And a quick question for you is, can you hear Steve okay?
Yes, I can. Both of you are coming in quite hot with my setup.
Okay, well, wonderful. And Steve, can you hear Arizona KJ4JKV?
That's the guy's name.
This KJ7SDY. Yes, I can hear him. His audio is a little low, but perfectly readable. All right, well, it sounds like we got ourselves a net. I'm going to turn it over to you, Arizona, and then when you're done, can you please turn it over to Steve, KG7SDY. And Steve, when you're done, go ahead and turn it back to me, WA0A. So with that, what are you up to tonight, Arizona? KJ4JKV, WA0A.
Well, I might turn on my power a little bit for SDY's benefit. Because I'm probably only putting out about 20 watts. Probably right at this point, 20 watts. I was eating dinner a little bit earlier, and I looked at the clock, and I'm like, shoot, it's after 7. So I finished eating and ran over here, and thankfully heard you guys messing around. So, and listened to most of the conversation. I think I've been around since about a quarter after. I can speak more on 10-meter radios in the next go-around, but yes, there's plenty of options for 10-meter radios, new in particular at the moment, and then the used ones, of course, as far as the whole band on mode guys. And then I'll pass it back to SDY. Go ahead.
Let's come back over here. All these radios are excellent. They're all great.
Got a Yaesu 8900 sitting over on the shelf there, and it,
But this guy doesn't really sound good.
To pull that off the shelf.
I can pull him out better on this radio, though.
The antenna that I had a 4-band antenna that should work. I'm going to set that up.
Anyway, I was surprised to hear these guys. There used to be a net, but they quit doing it. A local net. Apparently they're going to do it again. I don't know.
This is KG7SDY, turning it over to WA0A. Go ahead, Steve. Yeah, okay, thank you. And, the 8900, I think that's an FM only, though. I'm gonna look it up here in a second when I'm done with my spiel.